Morning everyone. Today we've got to bottle some syrup. We've got quite a few orders that have been coming in lately. We're also getting ready for fair season. So we're going to take everyone through that process and see if we can get this done today. So it's pretty humid out right now, and it's only going to get warmer in here running the burners. Probably got to turn on the air conditioning. Much better. So whenever you heat syrup up, regardless of whether it's on the evaporator or when you're in the process of heating it up to repackage it from bulk containers, syrup makes niter. It's a natural mineral that comes out of the syrup. You don't taste it. You won't even notice it if it's there. It just doesn't look good. So part of the process that we do when we heat the syrup up, like we're going to do today, we take it from large barrels and then we run it through the finisher here. When we run it through that, what we'll do is we'll bring it up to temperature, somewhere around 190 degrees, and then we check it for density again. Then we have to filter it because we have to get that niter out. So when we have that direct flame on it in the canner, the niter comes out. We've got to filter that back out. Then we run it through the filter press. The filter press takes that natural niter out of it, as well as other impurities, anything else that's in it, and gives it the clean polished look. But then we need to bottle it still. So with that, we need to keep it at temperature, somewhere between 180 and 190 degrees. But how do we keep it there without putting direct fire on it? Because that direct fire puts niter in. What we use is a double boiler. So there's a tank below our canning unit, which is up here, that just has water in it. We heat that water up with propane, it heats up the syrup and keeps us at temperature. And then we can bottle between 180 and 190 degrees. As long as we stay below that 190, the syrup won't bring niter out of it again. So we use a drain valve on the barrels. That allows us to control the flow of the syrup coming out, so we can hang it up and just take out what we need as we're going. Now, we just take out what we need for syrup. So this canner heats with propane, and it allows us to heat the syrup up quickly and efficiently, having the two burners. So we leave the canner underneath the barrel. What that does is it allows the heat, as it's coming off the syrup, it heats that barrel of syrup up a little bit more, allows it to flow easier, plus we gain a little bit. It doesn't take as long the next batch. This 55-gallon barrel will take about 4 batches to completely empty it. We put about 15 gallons in the canner at a time, heat that up, transfer it through the filter press, filter it, and then bottle it into retail sizes. We are doing a little bit of bulk packaging today. We've got the blue 5-gallon barrels there. We've got a couple wholesale accounts that like to take it that way. It's a little bit easier for them to manage. So we'll fill those up directly out of the filter press. It just saves time not going in the canner. So the syrup in the sugar house is about 70 degrees, so we gotta go to 190. So we got a couple minutes left here. While we're waiting for that syrup to heat up, we'll get the filter press ready. We just gotta add papers in between all the plates and get the hoses hooked up. Hot syrup hose coming with unfiltered syrup goes on this side of the pump. And our filtered syrup goes on where it comes out of the press. All the plates have a certain direction they need to be on. On ours, if you look, there's a hook on one side and flat elbow on the other. What those do is that gives you your orientation, because you need the syrup to flow a certain way, otherwise it won't filter. It just locks the press up because it doesn't allow the syrup to flow through it properly. Press papers are they're a paper filter with 2 holes on the bottom. The papers don't actually do the filtering, it's the filter aid. It's diatomaceous earth, a natural mineral that's used for filtering. It's all food grade, so the papers they catch the filter aid, and the filter aid is actually what does the filtering. So 1 per plate. So we run a liter filter press. Ours, it's a 7.5 inch plate, so 7.5 inches of open space. But it's also a clear press. Most of the presses on the market these days are a aluminum or stainless steel material. What happens with that though is that aluminum or stainless steel absorbs a lot of the heat out of the press when you first start, which cools your syrup off, so you have to reheat it. With the plastic press, it doesn't pull the heat out of it as bad. And then you can also look in, and we'll see it later, you're gonna be able to watch the filter aid build up on the plates, and then you can tell how much room you've got left. Generally, we can filter during the season when we're making syrup and it hasn't been filtered already. Summers are around 20 to 40 gallons, depending on how much niter we're getting out of the syrup that day. End of this, when we're bottling syrup later in the year, out of barrels that's already been filtered, we can get somewhere around 80 gallons through the press. So each time it plugs up, then you have to clean it. By seeing this and looking in, I can tell how much room is left in there building up. And I can also see the flow. One thing we did on our press is we got some great sugar maker knowledge, and they told us put a Sharpie line across the top on the one side. That has the flat ear, and that way when you look at it just a quick glance, you can always make sure the plates are lined up properly. Turn on our burner for our double boiler to get the water heated up. All right, now that we're up to about 170 degrees, a little more than that, we're gonna check the syrup that's in here for density. So syrup needs to be at 67 bricks. So we're gonna check it. We've got a hydrometer here that we're gonna use, and then we've got a gauge on our cup. And what we do is we want the 2 numbers to match, and that tells us that we're at the right density. So we're gonna warm the cup up first. We float our hydrometer in our syrup. So, according to this, we need our hydrometer to be at 61.5. And right now we're right about 62. We normally run about a half a point heavy anyways. What that allows us to do is it changes the flavor profile on the palate and makes the syrup last a little bit longer on the tongue. So with this syrup, we're right on. Now we'll start getting the press ready. So we're gonna get the barrel up out of the way. And we'll get the filter aid. So filter aid's a white powdery substance. It's filled with diatoms, basically. They're jagged edges that are all over it. And it's like a pool filter, basically, just food grade, that it collects the minerals and doesn't allow them to pass through. So we mix that right into the syrup before we filter it. All right, so we're up to 190 degrees. Now let's get everything hooked up and we can start filtering some syrup. Press is all set up. Now we put in the filter aid. So when we first start, we run the syrup back into the canner. What that does is it charges the press, gets it filled up with syrup, and gets the filter built up on those papers so that we can start getting the syrup looking good. So we'll open the valve here, turn on our press. And now we're making that beautiful syrup. To start, today we're filling up a 5-gallon barrel. This one goes to the Blue Pig in Gorham. It's a restaurant, breakfast and lunch. They've been using our syrup for a couple of years now. So we'll get this filled up and then we'll put the rest of it in the canner. That barrel's full. Now the rest will go into the canner. So if you look, you can just barely see the filter aid starting to collect on the papers. Just doing it all the way across. Now we load up batch number 2. You can really see the filter aid starting to collect on the plate as we run our second batch now. So we're grading syrup now. The one in the center, that's today's batch. And the way you grade syrup is you need that center sample to be darker than the one on the left, but lighter than the one on the right. So you've got amber rich syrup and dark robust, and ours in the middle. So if this one was lighter than the amber, then it would be a golden or it would be amber. If it's darker than the dark robust, then it's very dark. So today, dark robust syrup it is. Last batch. If you look now, you can really see how much filter aid we've got built up in the press. This lets us know how much longer we're going to be able to run. So this is about 45 gallons that's gone through now. I ran the filter rate a little bit heavier than I normally would, just because I only had the 55. It's a little bit easier to push the syrup out. Bottle and plastic's the worst. You can't see what's going on in the bottle, so you have to watch it like a hawk to make sure it doesn't spill off the top. At the same time, it's all by sound. If you fill them too fast, it makes bubbles and then you don't fill the bottles up all the way. So slow and steady on plastic. All done bottle and plastic. Just have to label it up and we can put those away now. Probably taste it. Make sure everything's okay with this batch. Outside of the fact that it's 180 degrees, it's damn good syrup.